Well, good afternoon. Welcome to coming to the What's New in Workforce session and all the way into the hotel. Hopefully it was a quick hop from the lounge over to the room, so you can come join us. My name is Jeff Shaner, and I'm a product manager within our applications development group. And it's International Green Plaid Day, so Craig Gilgrass, who's our product owner for Workforce, and I are here to present to you on the product, what the product is, and what's new and what's coming. Has anyone in the room used Workforce for ArcGIS? All right, a few of you. Yeah, you better put up your hand, Gary.
I haven't really used it yet.
But for those of you that haven't, Workforce for ArcGIS was released roughly 2 years ago as a new mobile solution. It includes a back-office administration console and dispatching web application and a field application as well. And it helps you plan and coordinate your field work. It's aware of all the workers' locations and where they've potentially been. And you can use it, in a sense, as your to-do list on your mobile device. Much like you manage your personal to-do list on your phones now rather than on paper, you can manage your work to-do list on a mobile device and leverage that mobile application to launch and remotely control the other apps that you use on your phone to complete work, like Collector for ArcGIS and Survey123. Just a quick glimpse of how Workforce is being used. We have a number of organizations that have adopted Workforce in the past couple of years to do things like the inventory and maintenance of hydrants, to do valve inspections, to do one-call reports, and a lot more. We've seen some quite interesting adoption of the technology. We'll talk about some aspects of that as we go through the presentation. But I thought to kind of start off, it might be good to see a demo. How does Workforce work? What are the different ways that you use it inside of your organization? And how quickly can you get up and running with it? So let's jump out of slides and go over to my organization. Here, I'll just full screen my content view. And you can see I don't have a lot of content in here. I've got one map that I've created for use with Collector, and there's a hosted feature service in here to do inspections and installs. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the Apps button on the top right here, and I'm going to launch our Workforce Web application. It's a quick way to get at it, and you can start from scratch right on this page to kind of create new Workforce projects. So taking that role as the GIS administrator inside of our organization, I want to set up our field workforce for using Workforce to kind of coordinate the work we're going to do. So it's simply a matter of going through the administration panel. I'm going to click the Create Project button, and I'll give my project a name. Workforce Dev Summit, hydrant installs. I can give it a nice description if I like, or summary. And then it's going to go off and create a new project for me. And this project includes a set of web maps, a number of feature services. It neatly tucks it all into a folder in my content as the owner, and then creates a group and shares everything with the group. So it's doing a lot of the administration tasks that you would normally have to do inside of your content view, but through this kind of simple wizard interface. And now it guides me to the next step, and that's what type of work that I want to accomplish in the field. I'm going to say install new hydrants, do our annual hydrant inspections, and we'll just leave it at that. So you can define a set of assignment types. These are the different ways that your field workers think about the tasks that they perform out in the field. You can add all different types. You can add and remove new ones throughout the project as well. And then you can see flashing is the users button. And with the users button, this is the way that you kind of manage that field workforce that's a part of the project. I'm just going to simply add myself in as a mobile worker. You can see by default as the project owner, I have a role as a dispatcher already. I am the administrator. We're also going to add ourselves as a mobile worker, so I can show you the phone view of it as well. And on the Advanced tab, when I click on it and expand out, this is where I can add the integration with the other applications. So you can see here that Collector for ArcGIS appears, and I can click the Add button. I have that web map that I showed you from my Contents view available. I can click on it. I can choose the type of assignment that I want to integrate it with. So if perhaps I do my hydrant inspections with Survey 123, and I just want to do install of new hydrants with Collector, I can add that integration directly in. The other piece that I can add inside of the Advanced tab is location tracking. So by default within Workforce, we're going to know the last known location of each and every mobile worker. But if I want to store their history, their breadcrumb trails, if you like, I can enable that capability as well. And then I can choose the time threshold in which it updates locations into that service. Okay, so I've really gone through the process of creating my project. A couple other little things I can do as nice additions for the dispatcher and also for someone looking at workforce projects in the organization. Give it a nice thumbnail. So you can add a thumbnail. That thumbnail appears in the item either in the Workforce Web page as we started out or in your item content. And then I can add layers to the maps themselves. I mentioned that Workforce creates 2 maps as well as a number of feature services. One map is for the dispatcher, and that dispatcher is creating assignments with this web application. So I can go and add content to it, and the other one's for the mobile worker. So opening up the dispatcher map, I can go in and I can search for layers. DS, I think. So I had created a hosted feature service of hydrants. I can change the layer order. I can modify the symbology if I want. I do want to set the visibility scale range so you can see them as I zoom out. See all these hydrants are in a section of San Diego near La Jolla. And I can save the dispatcher web map with that extent. I could switch the base map, whatnot. Change the pop-up definition inside of the dispatcher map. You can see that the map is refreshing as well. That means that there's a layer refresh on it. So as a dispatcher, if new hydrants are installed with the Collector integration, I'm going to see them pop up. And if I need to send someone out to do a repair or do an install or, an inspection, I can do that because all that information is feeding right into the layer itself. On the worker map, I think I'm just going to leave it pretty much as is. I'm going to zoom in roughly to that area in San Diego, and then just change the base map to be our imagery with labels base map so that you can get a different perspective on it. Hit save. Of course, we could add the hydrants layer or other layers that are reference information into the map if we'd like. We could just leave it as that. So now back at the Overview tab, I can either hand this off to the dispatcher, that person that's a field manager that goes out and creates the work assignments, or I can open it up directly myself if I'm taking on multiple roles within the organization. Here, we've got a view. There's the dispatcher map that has the hydrants in it. You can see this is a brand new project. It doesn't have any work assignments yet. So in this web application, I can directly add new assignments and assign those new assignments to my field workforce if I'd like. Very manual process in doing this. I'll talk about how you can automate it as well. So a couple of things you can do here. I could go and click on the select button, select a number of the hydrants, and highlight them all and say create assignments. And now I'm going to create a whole bunch of new work assignments, titled hydrants, and I can in batch assign them to myself because I'm the only mobile worker in here. I can give an assignment a priority, like medium, a due date, and a due time if I'd like. I could give it a unique ID. I could give it a description. I could attach information, say that's an inspection or a hydrant flush, a more involved task, and I have a PDF that kind of describes the asset. Maybe it's a CAD drawing. I could attach that PDF onto the assignment so it can guide the field worker in how they want to go and create those different inspections. The last thing I need to choose though is the type. So I'll say install new hydrants here because that's what I did the assignment with collector on, and you can see that successfully created 16 new assignments. Now, so that's one way to do it in bulk.
You said you could give it a unique value if you're doing 16 of them. Will it just, if you put like one in there, will it add one to it so it's unique, or will it have the same?
I am manually creating those assignments here, so I would need to go in and edit each and every one of those assignments and add the ID myself. Now, what I didn't talk about yet is how you could take all of these and automate it with Python. So that would be one way to do that, yeah. Another way to create assignments is literally to click on the Create Assignment button itself, choose the assignment type. Let's say that's an inspection type. Click the Assign button. Click somewhere on the map where the assignment is to be located. So I could have done it off a feature like I did earlier, or just tap on the map, or I could type in an address, and I can click Create Assignment. So there's a number of methods within this Dispatcher web application to go off and just create new assignments. And now once I'm done with the creating of assignments, I can switch over onto the mobile device and look at Workforce when I'm out in the field. And that's number 5, I believe. So here we have a view of my iPhone. And I'm going to tap on Workforce and open up the application. And as a mobile worker that's now participating in this project, I can sign in with my username. I'd already done that ahead of time. It automatically loads the project if there's only one, of which there is only one in this instance in my organization. And I can see all the new work that I need to do. I could also browse the map. You can see I had changed that map to be the raster base map. I can see all of the assignments that are assigned to me on the map. You can see, zoom in here and see them. So I can use the map view as a source of reference. I could pick on one of the assignments itself, and then I can go and complete it. And you can see some information here that's valuable to me. One of them is the ability to start the new work assignment. So when I tap Start, that's going to record the date timestamp and associate that as the start point for me going out and completing this hydrant install. I can add notes to it, like new install, something really informative like that. And there's more that you can add into here. Craig will show you a little bit more later. And then as part of the install work, I have that integration with Collector because I want to store the asset data in the GIS as well. So when I tap the Action button, I can say Collect at this assignment. That'll go over and remotely launch Collector for ArcGIS, go to the location of the hydrant that needs to be installed, and then I can capture that data right here inside of Collector. And once I'm done, I can switch back to Workforce, and I can finish that assignment. So it's literally that simple to get up and running with Workforce. Switching back over to the dispatcher view, I should then be able to see that the assignments, what's there. I could start to filter those assignments based upon ones that have been completed. I could go to that location. I could find my worker's location as well. Of course, this is a demo, so I'm not really in La Jolla. I'm here in the convention center. You can see there's my location. There's the work that I've completed. All of that's available in this dispatcher view. Now, for my manager, who's probably the supervisor of the water department, I'd probably want to create a dashboard so they could kind of see that overall status of the work that's going on as well. And really, all that we have been doing here is we've been adding features into feature services and updating features in those layers. It's really that straightforward. So hopefully that's a good introduction to Workforce for those of you that haven't seen it yet. Just to kind of highlight some of the value statements on Workforce and where it fits together. Workforce helps you kind of plan, coordinate, and assign and complete that work. And you can fuse work management into this ArcGIS platform by just launching and creating a new Workforce project if you like. You could also ETL data from a third-party work management system if you'd like. And we provide a set of GitHub scripts that will help you get up and running with that. The Dispatcher web application lets you create those new work assignments, give them different priorities, assign that work to the mobile workers that you've added to your project. And then on the mobile device, it helps you manage the planned work assignments that you have or react and respond to unplanned work that might come in through the day. So as new work is added, you're going to get a notification on your device that there's new work in the system for you. And you can go off and navigate to it if you like and complete it. So it's really about the assignment of that work and the completion of it. So the Workforce project itself, I've kind of talked through a lot of this. A project itself is its own item type inside of ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. When you create a new project, it creates that dispatcher web map. It creates the mobile web map. It creates 4 feature layers for you in the hosted data store, puts them all in a folder, creates a group, and shares it all with the group. And like I said already, we have a GitHub repository. There's the URL for it, where you can go and automate some of that process if you like. Load all your workers, load a bunch of assignments, archive off completed assignments if you'd like. So the 3 kind of roles within the system: administrating Workforce projects, that's what I ran through in the web application with you at the start. You can create those new assignments from our home page, configure those assignment types, add the dispatchers and mobile workers if they have multiple dispatchers that are creating assignments. You can configure the maps and layers, and then you can configure those app integrations, either with Collector, with Survey, with Explorer, and by default, we just add in Navigator for ArcGIS. The web application for the dispatcher lets you create those new work assignments either by just clicking on the map, by typing in an address, from features either individually or in bulk like I showed you. And you can assign work and filter and sort the assignments by different criteria like their status or whatnot. And view the location of all the workers themselves. And then on the mobile side, it's really about managing that to-do list. Where are all those field workers? You can see the other ones that are out in the field with you. You can contact them if their contact information is inside of their identity in the project. And you can navigate to them with Navigator and whatnot. So the other thing I wanted to mention here also is that there is that concept of the workers. And so the worker itself, I just kind of added myself as both a mobile worker and a dispatcher, but the mobile worker can have additional details to them, their contact number, their title, some notes about them. The dispatchers can see that. A dispatcher, as you can see here, could remotely call a mobile worker from the web application if, say, you had Skype integration set up. They can call each other. The worker has a status, whether they're actively working, whether they're on a break or not working. That helps the dispatcher know who's the best person to assign work to. We have their location so we know how close they are to the work that they're accomplishing. We can make sure that we have the right person assigned to do the right job. So that's a really quick overview of what Workforce is. And this session's really focused on what's new. And I had to do the really boring demo, and I think I did a pretty good job of making that demo boring so that the other green plaid shirt guy can show you the fun stuff of what's new. Want to take it from there, Craig?
Sure, yeah. The soothing tones of Jeff Shaner, ladies and gentlemen. That is, as Jeff mentioned, he's the product manager for Workforce and for other apps. So as such, Jeff hasn't done a demo in a while. That's his first demo in 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get a hand for Jeff, please? Thank you very much. I was a little worried you'd forget something, but no,
I'm sure I forgot a lot.
It was good.
Yeah.
Very soothing, too. You should do like the overnight show on Sirius or something. So as Jeff mentioned, I'm the product owner for Workforce. I'm going to take you through some of the new work that we've been doing. We've had a large number of releases recently for Workforce, large number of additions to the capabilities that we've added. Some of those are things that Jeff skipped over so he could leave a little meat on the bone for me to talk about, so he wasn't talking about it all himself. So I'm going to go over some of the things that Jeff showed and kind of highlight some things that we did. I'm going to start off as the project owner and talk a little bit about some of the improvements that we've made over the last couple of releases for that role. The first one I'm going to do is, how many people are using vector-based maps right now? How many of you, well, don't all raise your hand at once, okay? How many of you know the setting to turn that on in your organization? Right here, right? So under the Map tab, use Esri vector-based map based in supported apps, right? So Workforce just recently started consuming that capability that was added. We've always supported vector-based maps from the beginning, but what you had to do is actually go into the Workforce project and open up one of these maps and know to change that base map. Now what we're doing is if you opt in to use vector-based maps, which hopefully all of you will after you see this, we're going to go and automatically use the navigation vector-based map as the background base map that's set up. Like Jeff mentioned, you're free to go and change it yourselves afterwards, but we wanted to give you a really good experience, really performant experience and a nice seamless view, both in the mobile and the web app by default if you've chosen to opt into that. So if you haven't done that yet, please do. That setting is only going to be honored by apps that actually are using vector-based maps right now, and they'll all check for that setting to look for it. So that's a nice little piece that we added. The other thing that we did is we heard quite a bit of feedback from people that you liked the experience for setting up a project, but it wasn't as streamlined or as simple as it could be. Jeff showed some of the Python scripts that we have available that allow you to automate a lot of the tasks for loading data and getting different pieces of information into Workforce. But one of the pieces that we did here was, I need an easier way to add workers to my Workforce project. Why should I have to go out and write a Python script to go grab that script and import in all those workers? So what we did was we added a way for you to quickly and easily be able to import those in. Has anyone actually used this similar capability in an organization setting? So your org to import the named users within an org, right? Really easy to do. The guidelines are very clear about the CSV file to create. We did the exact same thing here, right? So what I can do here is I can go and choose to add workers to this particular project, and you'll see I'm presented with a dialog that gives me a couple different options. The first one is I can actually go in and download a template CSV file, and I've already done that, and you can see here it lets me really quickly and easily, wow, that is super small, right? So that's user ID, title, contact number, notes. Makes it really easy to see what it is that I'd like to have there. I can also choose to pre-populate with existing workers. This was actually something that we found useful while we were working on this and just prototyping it ourselves. So for those of you who've got Workforce projects or projects you're working on where you've got the same set or similar sets of workers, maybe it's seasonal work, right? Moving from year to year, you want to keep those discrete. You can actually check this on to pre-populate the existing workers. It'll download that CSV file with all the information you've already set up. You can then just use that on another project. And that's actually what I've done here. I took one of the projects that we have set up in the showcase area, and I'm going to go and actually import that in. So really quickly, it went through and processed the file. So there's a couple things that it did there. It checks to make sure, are all the named users in that file existing? So are they users that are in your org or have shared their profile to be able to be invited to the project? And you'll see that down below I've got one worker won't be added, that user doesn't exist, right? So that's an issue here. So I'd probably want to open up that CSV file, see if I got that named user incorrect. We also won't let you load in duplicate named users because we don't want you to have two workers with the exact same username in the same project. So there's a little bit of checking that we're doing here. So I'm just going to go and hit add users, and as I do that, you'll see that it really quickly and easily goes and adds all those 9 named users for me as workers in my project. You see it's also set up to actually go and allow me to have their phone numbers put in already. And then if I go and open up a few of these, you'll see that I think I set it up for Shaner. No. So I've got the phone number set up for it as well. Next to Jeff here, I actually invited a named user from another org that Jeff's in. So not only does this allow me to invite users within my organization, but actually bring them in from other orgs as well by loading them in. So think of it like just a batch bulk way of actually manually selecting the user, adding each of them in. So just a really quick, easy way to streamline and get up and running with your workforce project and set it up. The next piece that I want to highlight is on app integration. And this is an area that we've heard a lot of feedback from you on in terms of improving what we did. Jeff gave a really good example showing what was possible late last year before we made these changes, and I'm going to dig into a little bit more about what we've added to it. Explorer for ArcGIS is an app that we released last year around the user conference time in terms of refreshing it with a new experience built on the runtime. For those of you who've been to the showcase and taken a look at it, it's got a great response to it. We also heard a lot of feedback to add that as an integration to Workforce. So what's an example of where you'd want to do that? Well, you might have MMPKs, or you might have web maps that you want to configure for people to use in a project. Gives them an overview of the setting, right? Maybe it's the layout of the Florida Convention Center. Maybe it's some other wide-ranging map you want to associate with the project. The point being is that you want to make it easy to go from Workforce to Explorer. So we made that easy for you by adding this integration for Explorer. What we'll do is we'll go in and actually query all of the maps and mobile map packages that you can add that can be added to this project. This one I'll go and get the Palm Springs parcels. You'll see I'm actually returned 2 here. One of them is a web map. The other one is actually a mobile map package where I'm given some information about how large it will be when it comes on disk. I can then go choose to configure it, and in this case I'm going to configure it with the entire project. So I'll go and set that up. Now I've got the Explorer configuration ready to go. So it means that anyone who's using this project, when they open up an assignment, they'll be able to launch Explorer from that. So that's great. That makes it really easy to tie Explorer and the maps you have available in Explorer to your Workforce project. But one of the other pieces we heard from you was with regards to the collector and the Survey 123 integration. So Jeff showed a good example of taking a collector web map and integrating it with a project that was for hydrants, where you could go and easily create new hydrants. Well, one of the things we heard from you is that there's a lot of pieces of information on the work assignments that you want to pass from Workforce into that app that you're calling. Collector, Survey 123, whatever it might be, okay? So there's a couple different examples of that. So I'm going to go in here and actually go and configure a collector web map. I'll go and choose this one to be AED maintenance, and then I hit next. Now when I hit next, this is the new dialog that showed up late last year with one of our releases. What this allows me to do is map certain fields from the Workforce assignment into one of the editable layers in my collector web map. Now the examples that we have here are the global ID, the work order ID, and the location field. Let me talk a little bit about why you'd use each of those. The global ID field is one that we just recently added. We updated Workforce within the last few weeks. The purpose of passing the global ID of the assignment into collector is to create a loose relationship between the two, right? So not a relationship class or anything tightly coupled like that, but a loose relationship to be able to say, I need to easily relate the features I created in collector back to the assignment that they're related to. And it can't just be spatial, right? You can't just look on a map and see what's there. You actually want to be able to do a relate or a join to put those together and have it set up. And you can do that with the global ID. So a little specific workflow, but something that we added to help keep that relationship together. The other example you can pass is the work order ID. The work order ID could be a number of different terms that you give it. Service request identifier, job number, whatever that term is. It's the way that you talk about the work that's done within the organization. You want that piece of work, that ID, to follow it through, right? So from this work assignment, you want that to go out to the feature that you're collecting in Collector or the form that you're creating in Survey 123. The last example is location. Now this is not the XY, right, or the geometry. We already passed that, right? So we passed the XY of the assignment into Collector or into Survey 123. This is the text field that you describe where that work is being done. It could be an address, like 123 Main Street. It could be a room, like whichever room we're in right now, San Jacinto, right? It could be northeast corner of plot, kitty corner from 123 Main Street. Essentially, it's the description that you need to use and you use today to describe where the work should be done. So I'm going to go and choose to pass location into my AED Dev Summit layer, and I'm going to place that into place name and then go and add that. I'll click done. And now I've gone and set up an integration between Workforce and Collector so that not only is it going to launch the right map, it's also going to pass that information. And in a second, when I get there, if Gary stops asking questions, I'll get to that part of the demo. But go ahead, man.
The global ID, when you pass that, is it just going to a different GUID field in that Collector layer? It's not, you're not actually passing it into the global ID field. It won't let you do that one.
That was like 3 questions, man. All great questions, though. So the question was, when you're passing the global ID field, what's it going into, right? It's just going into a text field. GUID field is where it could go, right? It's not pre-populating the global ID of survey. No, it's not meant to do that, right? Of the survey form of the feature. No, it's just passing it through as a unique identifier. This is sort of gives you an idea of the progression of where we're going with Workforce, right? To make more of these fields available to you to pass that information, because it's all about making it really easy for the workers in the field to get the work done without doing the fat fingers or the 120 degree out or minus 40, right? You just want to get that information flowing really easily. So this is just an example to show sort of where we're going with that. Okay, so what did we cover? We covered all the stuff for the project owner in terms of configuring. We talked about importing the workers, talked about the Explorer navigation, passing the information to the fields, and then the navigation base map. Let's see, what else do we want to show? So one really quick thing that I'll show by opening up this Workforce project is we got a little bit of feedback last year. I don't know how many people noticed this. For those of you using Workforce, have you noticed this chevron here under the navigation controls, right? It lets you collapse the list really easily, right? So you can see the map full screen, right? So you can get back really quickly and easily. Works really well on smaller devices, right? And actually smaller screens. We got some feedback from a couple different agencies that said, you know, they're on older monitors. The list is just taking up too much of the screen. Can you just collapse it for me? So just really small thing for the dispatcher that we added. Okay, so talked about those different things for the project owner. Let me slide over and highlight a couple things for the worker that I want to highlight. So I've got Workforce running here on my iPhone, and I'm going to show a couple of things that we've added in the last few releases. The first one is a really subtle change, but I think it's something that's useful if you've got lots of assignments in terms of seeing how they're grouped. You might notice that I'm sorting here based on priority, so I've got my high priority items up at the top, and I've got my medium priority items down at the bottom. I can go and change the way that things are sorted, and you'll see that the grouping on them changes as well, right? So based on the type of sorting I'm doing, we're actually grouping assignments based on that sorting that's there to make it a little easier just to see how your list is set up for you, right? So something small, but a nice piece of feedback we heard from different people who are interested in it. I'm going to go and open up this AED installation and highlight a couple different things that we've done. The first one is the integrations that I was talking about before, right? So one, I've got the Explore at Assignment integration. So if I go and tap on that, you'll see that it's going to launch Explorer and sign me in, and then it's actually going to start downloading that map package for me onto my mobile device if I don't have it already, right? So it's got Explorer here. Workforce called out to Explorer, let it know I need to open up a particular item. In this case, it's the Palm Springs parcels map. If you don't have it, download it for me. Once this is finished downloading, it's going to prompt me to open it. Now I'm all set, and I've got that map available and ready to use, right? So really simple straightforward to use to call to Explorer to do that integration. The other piece that we added is the collected assignment. So in this example, I'm actually going to call out to collector. It's going to sign me in, and it's going to open up that particular web map that I configured. Now, if the Wi-Fi cooperates, there we go. What it does next is it says, what are the editable layers? What are the editable templates that are there that are configured for the layer that I set up? In this case, I only set it up with a layer with a single template, so I'm just presented with one. So you notice a bit of a difference than what Jeff had, right? It's really simple and easy to click on this one layer. You'll also notice that the place name is populated for me, right? It's pointing to the room where that assignment is, the Catalina room, right? So it pushed that location data over for me to populate it, right? So I don't have to go in and retype it. So a really simple example just showing that it's really easy to be able to configure that information from Workforce and pass it over to Collector. Now, the last thing I'd like to show for the mobile worker is one of the pieces that we added that helps mobile workers better document what's done or what they did in the field. We got a lot of requests, especially for call before you dig, right? If you ever have to do work on your house or work around, they've got to come out. The USA 1 call, they've got to come out with the mark and the paint and tell you where the gas lines are so they don't rupture a gas line and have people showing up at your house when you're just trying to build a deck, right? So you want to get those people out and show it. Well, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll actually have a piece of paper with them out in the field and they'll draw where they found it, where they placed everything. Well, instead of doing that, what if they could actually take a photo instead of that to actually associate it with the, that is not a good photo. It's a much better photo over there. So I can actually go and take a photo of the work that I've done and associate it with the work, okay? Think about that for a second. The photo isn't associated with the asset. It's not associated with the feature in Collector or the form in Survey. It's associated with the work assignment I'm doing in Workforce, right? So now that person who goes out and does the call before you dig can take a photo to show what was done or not done, right? Another good example we heard about this is in terms of debris removal, right? Showing, no, actually, they didn't set everything up at the curb as they should have. Here's a photo showing exactly what the situation was. So it's a way of recording work. Not just photos, but also videos, right? You can take those as well. Okay, so I highlighted the different pieces for the mobile workers in terms of consuming that app integration that you've set up, right, to be able to pass information to Survey and Collector, showing it working with Explorer, and then also attaching media, in this case, a photo. So I'm going to pass it back to Jeff Shaner.
That was really exciting.
Bring home.
Yeah, beautiful. Love that demo.
Just a highlight for you in case you wanted to capture all of what Craig just showed you. The one thing I think he didn't mention, this is kind of like our recent achievements. We did in 2017 introduce the Android version of the Workforce app. We were on the iOS platform alone for a little while. We added support for ArcGIS Enterprise 10.5.1, and then as 10.6 came out, we added support for it as well. And the rest of it, I believe you saw Craig show. So what's coming next with Workforce? There's a number of things that we have planned and in the hopper. One of the biggest things that has been asked for is kind of a seamless online/offline experience, so that when you're working in kind of that occasionally connected environment that Workforce is supporting you, you can actually complete those work assignments and change their status, that your location tracks continue to update as you're moving along. So that's a key enhancement that we're working on. And that includes actually bringing us up to a newer version of our underlying runtime, and it'll bring with it newer features as we go too, just by virtue of it being in there. Another one you can't do the face recognition that way. You gotta do it this way. There you go. Another one is having the mobile worker themselves, say they're out, it's near the end of the day, never happens to Craig, but perhaps you finish all your work ahead of time. If there's time left in your schedule and maybe you want to do some more work, that's something I would do. I don't know about Craig. So being able to self-assign work, it's not a capability that you would give to everyone, but some people should be able to do that. So being able to find the work that's near or around you, pick it up and self-assign it, and then go out and complete it. It's been requested by a number of our customers. And then really what's coming after that, we've got a number of things that we'd like to do as well, supporting multiple project owners. So right now it's the signed-in user that creates the workforce project that can modify its schema. It'd be nice if both of us could modify that schema. Having that. Ability to expand the assignment schema, add your own fields in, have them recognized in the mobile application so you could see them and update them. And just some more general capabilities there. I think...
how many people want those capabilities? How many people want multiple project owners? Whoa, with it, noise is not needed, sir. Just a hand. Jeez.
Can you at least change the owner? Can someone else grab ownership of that?
The question, so we're only taking questions from people in plaid today. I mentioned that is why Gary's the only one we're taking questions from. So the question was, can I change the owner of the project? Yes, you can. You can do that using the way ArcGIS Online allows you to manage it. We've actually got an FAQ that walks you through it. It's not as seamless as just switching over one item because we've got all those services and maps in the background. So it's about 2 or 3 steps to do it, but you can do it and it does work just fine. We've tested it out and got a step to do that. Yeah. So for project owners, another raise your hand, multiple project owners, people looking at. We'd love to talk to you about that afterwards if you want to come up and give us what your use cases are for it. What was the other stuff we said we'd do? Could you go back? Ability to add your own fields to the assignment schema. Wow, less hands than multiple project owners? Seriously? Okay. But come up again as well. We'd love to hear that use case. If you don't have time after this, head to the showcase, let the different team members know there as well. In the app integration, we got lots of use cases for that. So yeah.
How about this one? You want to ask that? Self-assign work?
No, we know we're going to do that one. Yeah,
How about this one?
We got lots of that one. No, we got it. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Want to talk about this?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Oh.
I heard, but I did not see the integration process for Survey 123. So I was curious if the same is for
So the question was, I didn't see the integration process for Survey 123 is the same that is for Collector. Pretty much, it's a little different. Happy to show it to you afterwards. It's a little different because Survey has one feature service behind it, so there's really no choice in terms of what layer or what service you want to point it to. Survey exposes the fields as questions as opposed to fields. So a little bit of difference, but the fields that you can pass are the same, and then you're just simply asked, which field do you want to send that to in Survey, and you can add as many as you like. If you want to send the location field to like 5 different questions in Survey, you can do that. So it's really simple, streamlined process, but happy to show it to you if you'd like to come up afterwards. Yep. No?
You want to talk about location drop?
People had a lot of starch at lunch.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, we got some extra time, so we thought we'd give you a sneak peek to some stuff that we're working on, right? Because it is what's new, but we could also do a bit of a sneak peek. Yeah?
Yeah.
Pass it over?
You want me to talk about this stuff? Or are you going to talk about it?
I was just going to show it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, just show it then.
Yeah, I was just going to show it. Yeah. So Jeff showed enabling location tracking for workforce. How many people have used that to drop the breadcrumb? Wow. Okay, we definitely want to talk to everybody who raised their hand after you guys get a front row seat. You can just jump the line, come talk right to us, right? We want, except for you, sir. Sorry. Can't start asking for stuff before I actually show it. So anybody raise their hand, come on up afterwards. Lots of team members the back left of the room, who will come up, who are also super interested to hear. It kind of surprised us. Maybe surprised isn't the right word. Well, we were a little surprised at the feedback we got from it. We actually, we knew people wanted to have the location tracking, so we built, we took what was done in Collector and we extended it, right? It's based on a frequency, so it drops, every 30 seconds, every 60 seconds, works in the foreground and the background. It doesn't work in offline scenarios in Workforce, right? So that was kind of a tick that we had to take care of. But what really surprised us actually was people starting to use it in Workforce and not really doing work. They were using Workforce as a location tracking mechanism, right? You could think of it like, a low-cost AVL, although AVL comes with all sorts of other things, but just a low-cost way of tracking, right? It's just a named user. They have the device already. They can go ahead and do that. So that worked really well, and it kind of surprised us. We started getting feedback on it, asking, we need a little bit more granularity on it. We've got some concerns, around the battery. The offline is an issue. So we got a lot of feedback from people on this. So we've been working on this research project for a bit. And for those of you who are in the road ahead on Tuesday, and the one that will be this today at 8:30 at night, it seems like. It's 5:30. It's just at the other end now. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. But we got some time here, so I thought I'd show it. So we actually kind of dug into this work. So what you're seeing here is a back office prototype that we've been working on to be able to visualize the tracks of how people done. There's no photos allowed, sir. That'll get confiscated at the door by those two gentlemen. Yeah. Just. I got plaid. Plaid is fine. You can take as many photos as you want. That's cool. So what this is letting me do is actually see all of the tracks for actually us as we've been testing it out this week here in Palm Springs. So you can see I've got a list of the different people whose locations I've got, and I can kind of zoom over and see them. I can click on one of these people, see their last known location. I can choose to highlight their tracks. I can also, zoom in a bit. You can see I start to see some directionality now, right? So I'm seeing arrows on it for this track that's being highlighted. I can also go and check out this super awesome worm effect that our developer and I were super excited about when we started using, and actually pull up some of the track points that are there and see the information that we're writing. So also different from how Workforce works today, we're writing more information to these tracks that we're gleaning from the device, right? Things like the date timestamp, the speed, the accuracy, what direction you were going in. What's that last one? The activity, right? So big improvements on a lot of the mobile devices in terms of giving you an idea of what the activity is that the person is doing or the device is doing, right? So it's really easy to fake it out, right? I'm kind of running right now, right? Or walking forcefully. But it does give you that idea. So you can see things like, were you stationary? Were you walking, running? Were you in a vehicle? Right, to get an idea of what's going on. And you can take all that information and combine it with the other pieces that we were adding in terms of speed and course and glean a lot of really, really interesting pieces from it. So I can go and see that. I can also go and filter it a little bit. So I only want to highlight certain parts of this track to see when Jeff was running less than 10 kilometers an hour. So I'll go and kind of pops those up on the screen for me. I can also go and choose to highlight, other people's tracks as they've been going around, so I can see sort of how they're all related to one another. So just to give you an idea of sort of different ways that we're visualizing this data, visualizing this information, pulling it in, and viewing it in the web app. And the way that we're doing this is all through the mobile application. So this is the mobile application that we're prototyping to take a look at the different tracks that are being laid down. So if I head in here to view the data that Jeff has. This is Jeff's phone. Let's see where Jeff was last night. We'll go last 24 hours. And man, that is not a straight line. That is wavering all over the place, dude. Oh wait, that was this morning. You were wavering like that this morning. It was a rough night. But you can see that it's got all the different tracks that it's laying down from right when Jeff was going around. From our testing, one of the things we're really interested in is hearing about battery life and what your expectations are, what you need, and really also what the requirements are, right? That's what we really want to dig into. We're seeing really good battery performance with it. where it's really not impacting the battery at all, running this all day. We've done a number of tests to mimic 8-hour shifts that workers would do. Typical 8 hours, combination of walking, driving, taking a lunch break, working in different places, and we're just going to continue doing that work. But you can see it's gone down and really represented really well where everything is in terms of creating those tracks. One of the other key things is that as the device is stationary, it's not picking up new points. So you're not getting a lot of stacked points, right? You're seeing a point cluster here because we're at the convention center and you're moving from hotspot to hotspot. But you're not getting these stacked points that are going all over the place, one by one. So now that I give a sneak peek of that, let me just walk through a couple of the use cases.
Want to do use
on
cases?
Stuff? Yeah. Okay, so switch back over there. So when we heard from people, a couple of the things that we were targeting, there was a couple of key things. We're really looking at this as, that the users who are being tracked agree to be tracked. There's an agreement on why it's being done, and in a lot of cases actually want to be tracked, right? Why? To show proof of work, just like taking the photo. Actually, I was there when I said I did that work. Go take a look at my tracks. You'll see that. Site visits is another big one. End of day assessment is something that we're hearing. So I've talked a lot about this in terms of the past tense, right? You're looking at the tracks. The mobile device that we're using to actually store those tracks, we're keeping them locally and then syncing them, pushing them up into the feature service at regular intervals, right? So that's how we're able to handle both online and offline. So the idea is that you collect these tracks throughout the day and then they get pushed up into the feature service so you can do this end of day assessment. So really useful to be able to know exactly where people went. What's a good example of that? Well, we got a photo here, of a flooded area, and with some of the recent disasters, it's really useful to see where people are going out in terms of searches or checking for the condition of different sites, right? Even walking around a building and actually showing, yes, we were supposed to walk around that building to make sure it was secure. We did that. The last one is site selection, which is really interesting. We were talking to a retail customer about using tracks in the context of selecting new sites to expand businesses. So think about this for a second. You use a business analyst to take all sorts of demographic data and come up with a collection of sites where you may want to put a new business. Then you send people out into the field to go and evaluate those sites, right? They take photos around it, give it a score, say how likely it is to be able to use it. If you're using the tracking capability that we're working on, you're able to see how they're doing that work. How do they walk around that site? Where do they go? Do they go off onto side streets for a block or two to get a real assessment of it, not just that one building? Now all of a sudden, you're not using the tracking to see if people went where they were supposed to. You're using it to find your rock stars. Why is it that when Jeff ranks places, it's consistently turning into new franchisers or new places we want to put a retail store? Maybe there's something about the way he's walking around the site, the way he's evaluating it, that we can glean from the tracks to determine that, right? See, they love it. Next. So there's a couple big pieces to this that I just want to touch on that I kind of gleamed over during the demo. The first one is data store and services. Right now, Workforce is pushing these tracks up into a relational data store. That relational data store can only do so much, right? We're actually moving to a NoSQL implementation. Has anybody used the spatial temporal database on Enterprise? So that's a NoSQL implementation, able to handle huge amounts of data that we're able to push up, and that's what we're leveraging in this case. We're going to be following a similar scenario that we do for Workforce. When Jeff showed creating that project, we want to keep it super simple, right? Just make it really easy for you to enable and manage this. Security is another really important thing for this. I gave a very high-level description of that retail scenario, but you can imagine other scenarios where it's useful to see those tracks, but not everyone in the organization should see everyone's tracks. Right? If Jeff's my manager, he should see my tracks. But Jeff doesn't manage Gary, should he see where he's gone? No, right? You actually want that security model built in to the information model of the tracks. I showed the Backoffice Web app that facilitates exploring, also the managing to be able to view those tracks. And then I also highlighted The mobile app, one of the pieces that I didn't show is actually the scheduling aspect of it, right? So the idea that you do perform work Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that's when you should be tracked, not outside those hours, right? So you want that tracking to be disabled outside those hours, or a reminder to say, hey, it's 9 a.m., would you like to start tracking? So we're looking at all those different scenarios for it. One of the really key pieces that I want to highlight is, again, it runs in the background. We're making it very efficient. It's a very streamlined app. It's meant to have a minimal footprint, minimal CPU and memory usage on the device, so that it's just running in the background, collecting that information that's needed. And then the last is a couple examples about using these tracks, right? So you've got these tracks, you've been collecting them, you've set up your spatial temporal big data store. You're pouring all those tracks into it. Now what do you do with them? Well, a couple examples of it. One is a dashboard that we've got, and on the left-hand side you'll see the dashboard change a little bit. So you can actually use the activity to refine it to show just those that are automotive, and then also show the tracks for a particular day. And then the dashboard obviously changes to account for that. Another example is actually using the tracks to create new data from it. So on the right-hand side is the geoanalytics server, where we're using some of their reconstruct tracks tools to actually reconstruct these track points. In this case, into polygons where we're buffering based on accuracy, right? So now you can kind of start to see, when you're collecting these tracks, you'll actually start to get a surface of how accurate your surface area is, right? Or where your workers or users are heading out to. So there's all sorts of different things you can do with this information.
So before we finish off, I just thought it'd be good to put what we just talked about in context. As Craig mentioned, we heard a lot of feedback from our customers about the value of just knowing the location of a worker and where they've been. What we've showed you here is the makings of a new location tracking capability in the platform. Workforce will take advantage of it, as will all the other applications that are part of our mobile suite. But in and of itself, it's going to be a new capability. It will have its own application that runs on the device, as Craig showed you. And it can be used for a lot of different types of applications that go well beyond the field worker that's out installing hydrants. It could be for anyone in the organization. So part of where we are right now is that you could see that we've been making a lot of progress development-wise. We really are looking for those use cases from you. We want to engage with our prototypes and to kind of a technology preview with you and get moving on this quickly. We think we can have a first release of this product coupled with ArcGIS Enterprise later this year. And we're working out some of the infrastructure requirements with the online team right now so that we can have a online delivery for it as well. So hopefully you saw a lot of interesting stuff you've been looking for coming in Workforce, and also got a glimpse into something new that we're building as a result of building the Workforce product. If you don't like it, you go fill out the Survey 123 presentation that would have done by Ishmael, and make sure that you mark all the wonderful stuff you've seen here as really good for us. So with that, I think we're right out of time, but we could take a couple of questions, right? Yeah. Especially from those of you that are not wearing plaid shirts, if you have some questions. Yeah, in the back.
Do you have anything in place or any plans for reoccurring assignments?
Reoccurring. It seems like a reoccurring theme that we've even talked about
don't
today.
Don't even do that. Don't.
Craig,
he's clearly a plant.
He's not. We have not talked.
Oh.
Well, do we have anyone else that's looking for reoccurring assignments? Oh, you see that.
Fine. It is something that we've talked about. We were literally just talking about this a little while ago. I'd like to hear about the use case that you're looking for exactly. So come on up afterwards. There's a couple ways that we're looking at tackling this. One is, we have those Python scripts to make it really easy to give examples on how to use them to create recurring assignments. In terms of actually building that into the product, that's going to take a little bit. We got to find somewhere for that logic to live, right? Where does it live? Does it live at within the web app? That's That's not great. We've got some ideas on how we can make it easy to create new assignments based on existing ones, which could help a little bit in terms of the paying for it. But when we hear about recurring assignments, it's usually, no, look, I've got this work that needs to be done every Monday at 9 a.m. I just need to set up an assignment to show up every Monday at 9 a.m. And have it created and get assigned to a particular worker. In terms of satisfying that use case, the Python script is sort of the best way to go right now. Building that into the product is definitely in the roadmap. It's something that we have. We're taking use cases on it. We've got it in our issues. It's something we'd like to do, but it's not something that we're going to be tackling this year for the product. But you'll see some examples of how we think we can help make that a little easier later this year, and then also with the scripts to help facilitate that a bit. Other questions from people not named Gary? I have to see your name tag, sir, before you ask the question, just to make sure you're not Gary. You're good. All right. Jeez.
Is everybody in the field who's using it in an Esri global account?
Esri Global?
The question was, is everybody in the field who's using it in an Esri global account? No. Everybody who's using it is a named user in an organization.
Follow up on that, is the licensing going to be like collector and server 1, 2, 3, or is there going to be a one-off and that way it's a little bit different to specify?
For location tracking.
Oh, for location.
For the tracking.
Oh, for the tracking piece.
Yeah, we're still sorting out those details, and this session is being recorded, so I would hate to give any false information about how the product is going to be licensed yet. We can talk about that later, though, Brent.
So you mentioned that the tracking is being stored, but the assignment, the completion, that's all being stored as well?
Yeah, so the question was, you mentioned the tracking being stored, the assignment, the completion time, that information, is that all being stored? Yeah, that's all stored in the assignments feature service. If you opened up the ones that Jeff was using, and it's okay, you probably nodded off with his soothing tones earlier when he went through it really pedantically, I thought, where he showed the schema.
As high as I could.
He showed the schema and that we record all the status values, date timestamps for when those status values change, so you can see when that happened. Yeah, that's all there. There's a really good FAQ in our doc that our doc lead's written that takes you through all that.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to the session.